actually in the screen?
Yep, you're right in the bullseye middle. And it's recording. I don't like it.
Why?
Because you're not smiling or anything.
Well, I'm not ready to shoot yet. Hey everyone, FG back here again. Actually today is the 23rd, so this is actually the first piece of the video, but I'm actually recording it last, which I guess if anyone has ever worked in television or movies, it's probably a fairly common thing because movies are not shot linearly usually, but most of my videos have been, so this is kind of a little different for me. But there have been some developments along the way that kind of made that linearity not work out so well. So the initial thought here with my Firestone RideRite airbags, since they have a very limited internal volume, and therefore the pressure will bounce fairly widely while driving, especially in an off-road type situation, I got the idea that what if I put some accumulator or snubber tanks, whatever you'd like to call them, as many aircraft and other industrial type hydraulics have. And so the picture that you see on screen right now is what I came up with in the the first build, the first iteration. Actually, it's gone through 3 iterations now. I had it all set up and it looked pretty good, and I thought that I was going to mount it behind the rear bumper, which looked like a good place because it would be close to the fill ports. It would be real easy to snap the T's into the lines and be able to tie everything in. And then I realized that it was actually bigger than what I had initially anticipated as I was under there quickly sketching things, and it didn't fit. Yes, I will admit to making a very neophyte mistake because, hey, even people that have engineering training do make mistakes, and that was a big one. So, sorry to all my engineering professors. So that involved going to Plan B, and Plan B was like, okay, where other places could it possibly fit? And I started looking around, and I said, well, what about up in the bed, where it would be out of the slime and mud and snow and salt and everything that coats the underside of the truck liberally during either winter or off-road driving, and maybe we'd keep things a little cleaner and a little neater. So I decided to head that route, and so I took a hole saw and cut 2 3/4-inch holes through the bed. Yeah, I know, kind of a little crazy. And then routed the lines up through there, which you'll see in part 2 of the video. Got everything connected and went ahead and tested. And after about an hour and a half, all the pressure had leaked out. It turned out that the pipe dope that I had used to connect all the brass fittings together did not work as well as I had thought. Maybe for water it does, because that's a larger molecule. Air is pretty small and pretty squirrely. It'll slip through the tiniest little places. So long story short, I ended up removing the entire manifold and just putting pipe plugs in there for now. The tanks are still in place. They're still doing their job as accumulators. There is just no easy on-off switch, so to speak, to tie them together for the circuits to operate either separately or to operate as one pooled volume. So when the weather here gets a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and jump back out again and take care of that. It's the 23rd of January here, and we're in Maryland, and it is rather cold. Yesterday was actually pretty nice. It was 50. Today it is 33, very breezy, and there is snow in the forecast for later today. So this is probably a situation that's just going to exist for a couple of months until March comes around, weather gets a little bit better, and I get out there and I go for generation, well, I guess this would actually be revision 4. So at that point, I will probably post video number 2 as a follow-up and let everyone know what I think about the performance and if it was actually worth it. As I mentioned in clip 2 and clip 3, this is very much an experiment. I have not run into anybody else that's tried this. I don't know if it was a complete waste of money. I'm about $140 into this project, which is probably a lot more than I had expected to spend. And like I said, it was kind of a crapshoot. It was just something that rolled through my head, and I said, I think I'm going to try this. No idea if it's better, no idea if it's worse. It was just something. It was there. So here we are. And so in a couple seconds, you'll be jumping to part 2, and I'll be actually showing you the build and describing a little more about it. So catch you in a moment.
All right, hey everyone, we're back. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're continuing with the project here. So these are 2 half-gallon air tanks that are actually manufactured, or at least labeled, by Firestone, the same company that made the airbags. So let me explain what I'm actually doing here. This is a crossover circuit with a valve, so that either these can operate in tandem as a connected pair, or if I close this valve, they will operate independently. And as I mentioned in the explanation, the reason for that is to separate the airbags under certain conditions. So we're going to keep going here with the project, and the next thing to do is to install the fittings on the other side of the tank. Which is where the plastic tubing is going to connect to the quick connect elbows here. And also here you can see this one is not installed yet.
Wait, hold it. Not installed.
And the red tubing, as is already on the truck, will come out of these two and get connected to T's, which are going to tie into the fill ports on the truck itself, which I will show you in segment 3. Catch you in a minute. All right, everyone, so this is FG here again. This is part 3 of the video, and sometimes things don't exactly go as planned. You know, people say that the plans of mice and men. Well, I've never really seen that I would say that mice plot too much, but men, you know, sometimes we scheme and we consider, and sometimes we even plot. And while doing so, you can be terse. Even one time, I think I was laconic. If any of you are Firefly fans, you'll get that reference. If not, go look it up. It was a great sci-fi series. Anyway, after that little commercial, the original plan was to mount this underneath the truck, back by the rear bumper, over on the passenger side in an area that I thought was going to be big enough. Unfortunately, only one of the tanks had arrived in time, and I started planning using that and kind of imagining in my head where everything else was going to fit. It didn't end up working that way, so plan number 2 ended up involving mounting it back here in the bed, right behind the furthermost passenger seat. So here you can see the 2 tanks are standing up on the bracket. I ended up modifying the original bracket a little bit, although I did keep it, so it's still the one that I had painted and detailed from before. And so what I did here was the lines actually go through the bed of the truck. I took a 3/4 inch hole saw, and yes, I actually drilled holes in the bed of my truck. I know some people, that's a complete no-no, but honestly, I don't ever see myself getting rid of this truck, and even if I did, it's only 2 3/4 inch holes, and I could always slap a plastic plug in there, and that would pretty much make the whole thing disappear. So what I did was fed the Firestone plastic tubing through some leftover transmission line that I had laying around from another project, and so that will very well protect the lines from getting scraped by, you know, sharp edges there, sheet metal or anything, and then routed them underneath the chassis all the way to the rear, and tied them into the fill ports. So again, to summarize with the idea of this, and I have no idea if it's going to turn out to be effective or it was a giant waste of time and money, but the thought is that as the airbags are being compressed going over bumps, and then when the wheel drops or droops, the air expands, you've got massive pressure changes going on inside those little bags, and they don't have very much volume. So the idea is that these are basically pneumatic snubbers, and will tend to even out those air pressure changes. And I really have no idea, honestly, if this is going to work. This is a crazy thing that kind of popped into my head. I've studied aircraft of different vintages, all the way back to the beginning with the Wright brothers, all the way to the latest stuff that we're flying now. And if you look through aircraft of the 40s through the 60s, maybe up possibly even into the early 70s, where a lot of things were still run by hydraulics instead of the straight-up fly-by-wire that a lot of machines are using, which have simplified a bunch of the equipment. They had hydraulic accumulators and tanks all over the place. They were just filled with wiring and piping of all sorts of natures, different pressures, different things were going on. Actually, if any of you have any braided stainless steel brake lines or anything like that on your truck, you can thank the aircraft industry for being the originators of all of those parts. So basically, that's the end of this video. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I don't know if this is a project that anybody else is really going to want to emulate. I thought it was more just kind of an interest type of thing. Like I said, I have no idea really if this is going to make any difference. I wanted to see if some of the pogo-ing in the rear end could possibly be changed depending on the pressure settings for this system. I've got it at 90 psi right now just for test pressure. I've never run it higher than 60 while on the road, and that was when I was towing a trailer. Typically I only keep it at around 12 to 15. So this is just to make sure that none of the ports are going to leak. I'm kind of stress testing it, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, until next time, FG out, and there's still that big world out there, and the political scene may have changed a little bit, and we're not really sure what kind of extra lockdowns we're going to be dealing with, so travel may be a little restricted, but hopefully you're still someplace that you can get out and see the great outdoors. So if you have that chance, go out and get her muddy.